The forest was silent at first, silent in a strange and heavy way, as if every creature was holding its breath. Evan, the human traveler, walked slowly through the tall, glowing trees. His boots touched the soft ground, and blue dust lifted with every step. He had come to this planet only for a short supply run, but he made the mistake of taking a shortcut through the old forest. Everyone said the forest was dangerous at night. But Evan thought danger was something he had already survived many times before. He was wrong. As he moved deeper inside, a strange sound spread between the trees. It was low, shaky, almost like wind crying. Evan stopped walking. He listened carefully. The sound came again, louder this time. It was not wind. It was fear. It was someone screaming. His heartbeat picked up. He looked around. The forest suddenly felt tighter, darker, and colder. The blue light from the trees started flickering like broken lamps. Evan knew he should turn back. Any scream in a place like this meant trouble, big trouble. But then the scream came again, sharper, more desperate. It was a woman's voice this time. She sounded terrified, alone, and hurt. Evan closed his eyes for 1 second. He told himself he was not responsible. He told himself it was not his problem. He told himself he could die if he interfered. But he also knew he could never walk away from someone crying for help. That was the kind of man he was, even if it cost him everything. He broke into a run. Branches scratched his arms as he pushed through the shadows. The forest floor shook under his boots. Something big moved ahead, something heavy, fast, and violent. Evan felt the ground tremble again, and he heard terrible snorting noises, deep and angry. He knew those sounds. He had heard them in warning reports. Savage alien boars. Monsters with bone plates on their heads and spikes like knives along their backs. They were fast, aggressive, and impossible to outrun. He slowed down and hid behind a wide tree. He peeked from the side, and his stomach tightened. The woman was there, lying on the ground, trying to crawl away. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes were wide with fear. Her cloak was torn, and her leg looked injured. 3 giant boars circled her. Their teeth were long and curved like sharp hooks. Steam came out of their nostrils every time they breathed. They pushed closer and closer to her, enjoying her fear. The woman screamed again, this time choking on her own breath. Evan's hands shook. He had no armor, no backup, and only a small blade and a flare pack. Fighting 1 boar was dangerous. Fighting 3 was madness. They were bigger than him, heavier than him, and faster than him. Even with a weapon, he had little chance. Without one, he had none. But he could not watch her die. He moved forward quietly, step by step. His fingers closed around a flare. He took a deep breath. He counted 3 seconds in his mind. Then he stepped out from behind the tree. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice cracked through the forest like a shockwave. The boars turned their heads toward him. Their red eyes glowed. They stomped the ground, ready to charge. Evan lit the flare. A bright red fire exploded in his hand, lighting the whole area. The boars roared in anger at the sudden brightness. Evan threw the flare at the nearest one. The creature screeched and stumbled back. The other 2 rushed toward him like living tanks. Evan grabbed another flare, but he was too slow. The first boar slammed into him, throwing him into a tree. Pain shot through his body. His breath disappeared. He fell to the ground, gasping. The woman cried out for him to run. He pushed himself up, shaky but determined. He had no time to think. The second boar charged. Evan rolled to the side, and the monster crashed into a rock. He tossed another flare toward it, buying himself a few seconds. The third boar focused on the woman again. She tried to crawl back, but the creature lowered its head, ready to finish her. Evan did not think. He sprinted toward her. His legs felt heavy, but he kept moving. The boar roared and charged at her, and Evan jumped in front of it. The impact was like being hit by a moving wall. Evan's body twisted, pain shooting through his ribs. But he didn't let go of his blade. When the boar pushed him down, Evan drove the blade into its thick neck with every bit of strength he had left. The creature screamed and collapsed. Evan collapsed too, breathing hard, bleeding, and shaking. The woman stared at him in shock. No human had ever done something like this for her kind. Evan looked at her through half-closed eyes. "You're safe now," he whispered, and then darkness pulled him down. Evan woke up to the sound of heavy breathing that was not his. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming. His vision was blurry, and everything around him spun like a broken wheel. But when he blinked again, he saw movement beside him. A huge shadow leaned close, sniffing the air near his face. His heart froze. Another boar. It was the fourth one, the biggest of the group. Anna had returned. Evan's fingers twitched, reaching for his blade, but the weapon was far away. His body refused to move. His ribs burned with every breath. The boar snorted loudly and lifted its head. Its eyes glowed red. It was deciding whether Evan was alive or just food. Then a sudden sound broke through the forest. A sharp crack. Evan turned his head and saw the alien woman weak, trembling, bleeding but standing on one knee, holding a broken branch like a spear. She had thrown it at the boar to distract it. The branch bounced off its armor, but it worked. The creature turned toward her with a furious roar. She had saved Evan from being eaten, but now the boar was coming for her. The woman's legs buckled. She couldn't run. She could barely stay upright. She crawled backward, fear flooding her eyes. She whispered something in her own language, maybe a prayer. Maybe a goodbye. Evan forced himself to move. Pain exploded across his chest, but he pushed through it. He grabbed a flare from his belt. His hand shook so badly he almost dropped it. The boar stomped toward the woman, lowering its head for the killing strike. Evan lit the flare. A burst of red fire exploded again, lighting his face like a dying star. "Hey, over here!" he shouted, voice breaking. The boar's head snapped toward him. Its red eyes locked on him. It roared so loudly the ground vibrated. Evan stood, even though he could barely feel his legs. He took one shaky step forward. The boar charged. Evan knew he couldn't run. He knew he couldn't dodge. He knew he would die if he stayed. But he also knew something else. If he didn't stop the creature, the woman would die too. So he held the flare up high, waiting for the moment the monster got close enough. The boar rushed at him like a falling mountain. At the last second, Evan dropped to one knee and smashed the burning flare into the creature's face. The boar screamed in pain, blinded off to the side, hitting the ground hard. The beast staggered, shaking its head wildly, trying to remove the burning flame from its eye. It slammed into trees, kicking up dirt and leaves. Evan's heart pounded as he crawled toward the woman. She reached out a trembling hand. He grabbed it. Together, they pulled themselves behind a fallen log just as the boar crashed into it. The log cracked in half. Dust exploded into the air. The boar was furious, now injured, angry, and desperate to kill anything in its path. Evan looked at the woman and whispered, "We need to finish it." She stared at him with confusion. No human should still be fighting. No human should still be standing after being thrown around by giant monsters. But Evan's eyes were steady, even through the pain. "I'll distract it," he said. "You grab the blade." She shook her head. "You will die." He smiled weakly. "Not today." The boar sniffed the air again. It found their scent. It roared and charged at them once more. Evan stood up quickly, waving his arms, shouting to pull its attention again. His voice cracked, but he kept yelling. The boar ran at him. It was faster than before. More furious. More deadly. Evan waited until the last possible second. Then he dove out of the way again, letting the boar crash into a tree. The creature was stunned for a moment. The woman didn't waste it. She crawled fast toward Evan's fallen blade, grabbed it with both hands, and pulled it free from the dirt. The boar turned back toward Evan. It started charging again. The woman screamed his name. She didn't even know why she cared, but she did. Evan turned and saw the blade flying toward him. She had thrown it. He caught it. The boar roared and lunged. Evan didn't step back. He stepped forward. With one wild, desperate swing, he drove the blade deep into the soft part under the boar's neck. The creature screamed, shook, then collapsed with a heavy thud that made the earth tremble. Silence returned to the forest. The woman crawled toward Evan. Her hands shook as she touched his face, checking if he was still alive. His breathing was rough but steady. "You should have died," she whispered. Evan gave her a tired smile. "Maybe, but not while someone needs me." For the first time, she understood him. And for the first time, she feared losing him more than the monsters around them. The forest was finally quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that comes after violence, heavy, cold, waiting for the next danger. Evan tried to stand, but his ribs felt like broken glass inside his chest. His vision blurred every few seconds. The alien woman Liren helped support him. Though she was injured herself, "You can't move," she whispered. "I don't have a choice," he said. Trying to smile, he stumbled forward anyway. Lirona looked at him with disbelief. Humans were known to be tough, but what she saw in Evan was not toughness. It was something deeper, something stubborn, reckless, and painfully brave. The smell of blood attracted predators. The boars were dead, but other creatures in the forest were not. They had only minutes before something else followed the scent. "We need to get out of here," she said, voice shaking. Evan nodded. "My cruiser. Not far." Lirena's eyes widened. You came here with a cruiser?" "Small one," he said, "but fast." She tried to understand. A human cruiser in this restricted forest. A human alone on this side of the border. None of it made sense. But she didn't have strength left to ask questions. Evan placed her arm over his shoulder, ignoring the pain that stabbed through him like fire. Together, step by slow step, they moved through the trees. The forest felt even darker now, as if watching them. Every branch snap made Lirona flinch. Every echo made Evan tighten his grip on her after a painful walk. They reached a small clearing. There it was, a compact human patrol cruiser Silver, scratched and half buried under bushes to hide it from scanners. Lirona froze. You stole a military cruiser?" Evan didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. She stared at him with wide eyes. "Humans are punished for this. Severely punished." "I'll deal with that later," he said. "Right now, we're getting out." She didn't understand him. Why would a human break protocol, risk his rank, maybe even his life, for her? She had never met a human who would do that for an alien, especially her kind. Evan staggered to the cruiser door and opened it. Blue lights flickered to life inside. The cockpit smelled of metal and fuel. It was small but powerful, built for speed, not comfort. He helped Lirona inside first. She winced with pain, but tried to hide it. When he climbed in after her, his vision flickered again. He blinked hard, forcing himself to stay conscious, the moment he pressed the ignition pad. The cruiser hummed and lifted gently, but the sound woke something else in the forest behind them. Deep inside the shadows, a long howl echoed. Then another. And another. Lyrana's blood turned cold. "Forest stalkers," she whispered. Evan's hands tightened on the controls. "Then we leave now." He pushed the throttle forward. The cruiser shot upward, breaking through the glowing treetops. Wind roared around them. The forest below became a blur of darkness and blue light. Lyrana looked down, trembling. She had thought she would die with boars. She didn't expect to survive long enough to see the sky again, but they weren't safe yet. A sudden alarm beeped inside the cruiser. Scan detected. Evan's eyes widened. No, this isn't good. Lyrana looked at him. "What does it mean?" "It means someone found us." The cruiser's screen flashed with bright red symbols. A hostile radar locked onto them. A ship was tracking their movement. "Your people?" Evan asked. Lyrana's voice cracked. "If it is my people, we are in danger." Evan didn't need more explanation. He increased speed. The cruiser zoomed across the sky like a streak of silver, dodging rocky cliffs and glowing waterfalls. Lyrana held onto the seat, breath shaking. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Evan glanced at her. Even injured, she looked strong, stubborn, ready to fight her fate. "Because leaving you there wasn't right," he said simply. She stared at him, confused. No human had ever cared for someone like her. She wasn't royalty. She wasn't special. She was just another alien traveler. But Evan looked at her like she mattered. The radar beeping grew louder. "They're getting closer," Evan said. "Can your cruiser outrun them?" she asked. "No," he said. "But I can outfly them." He gripped the controls and dived sharply beneath a floating rock arch. The cruiser scraped against the stone, sparks flying. Lyrana gasped and closed her eyes, waiting for the crash. But Evan pulled them through. The hostiles got closer. "Evan." She whispered, fear in her voice. He didn't look scared. He just looked determined. "We're not dying today," he said. The cruiser shot forward like a silver arrow into the night sky, and behind them, the hunter ship began its chase. The cruiser shook again as another blast hit the back engine. Red lights flashed across the cockpit like angry eyes. Evan cursed under his breath and tightened his grip on the controls. Lyrana felt her stomach twist with fear as sparks flew across the dashboard. "They're firing again." She shouted. "I noticed," Evan replied, trying to steady the ship. Sweat ran down his face. Mixing with dust and dried blood, another warning alarm screamed. "Engine temperature." Critical. Lyrana grabbed the edge of her seat. "We cannot outrun them. They won't stop." "I know," Evan said. "So we stop running." Before she could ask what he meant, he pulled the cruiser downward. They dropped fast, too fast. The alien gunship behind them almost crashed, trying to follow. Evan used the moment to disappear into a canyon filled with huge glowing stones. The narrow passage twisted like a maze. One wrong move and the cruiser would smash into the rocks. Lyrana pressed a hand against the glass, watching the canyon walls flash by in blurs of blue and white. "You'll kill us," she cried. "Only if I miss," Evan answered. The hostile ship fired again, but the shots hit the canyon walls instead. Dust and debris rained over them. Evan lowered the cruiser under a stone bridge, then lifted it sharply through a narrow gap that barely looked large. Enough for a bird. The gunship tried to follow. It didn't fit. A loud crash echoed behind them. Lyrana gasped. Evan let out a shaky breath. They were finally safe. For a moment, the cruiser slowed, humming weakly. The engine sputtered like a dying heartbeat. Evan guided it out of the canyon and toward a small landing platform on a cliffside. "We'll stop here," he said. "The engines need rest." Lyrana looked at him closely now. Even in the dim light, she could see the pain on his face. His ribs were bruised, maybe broken. Dried blood covered his shirt. And still he moved with focus. "Why did you risk all that for me?" she whispered. Evan leaned back in his seat. "Because you were being hunted. That is not enough reason for a human to break military rules," she said. Not enough reason to almost die twice. The way she said it made Evan look at her more carefully. She wasn't just scared. She was hiding something. Something she thought he wouldn't understand. "Lerona, who is chasing you?" he asked. She didn't answer. He tried again, softer. "Are they criminals? Soldiers? Hunters?" Her hands tightened on her cloak. "None of those." "Then who?" She looked away, eyes shining with fear and shame. "My own people." Kaze's eyes widened. "Your people tried to kill you." She nodded slowly. "Why? What did you do?" Her voice cracked as she answered. "I was born with marks." Evan frowned. "Marks?" She hesitated, then slowly pulled back her cloak. Underneath, her silver skin shimmered with faint blue patterns, thin lines like glowing vines, wrapping from her shoulder down her arm. Evan stared, confused. "They're beautiful," he said. Lorena shook her head violently. "No. On my world, they mean something dangerous. Something forbidden." "What do they mean?" She swallowed hard. "Royal blood." Evan froze. She looked at the marks like they were chains. "My mother was a queen. She hid me because the council wanted her throne. When they discovered I existed, they wanted me gone. A royal daughter can challenge the council's power." "So they tried to kill you?" Evan said softly. "Yes," she whispered. "And they use the forest creatures because they cannot be traced." Evan leaned back, shocked. "You're a princess." Lerona flinched. "Please don't call me that. It only brings danger." He looked at her differently now. Not with fear. Not with awe. With understanding. "All this time you thought humans would treat you the same way your people did," Evan said. She nodded. "Humans do not risk their lives for aliens. Not for my kind. Not for someone worth nothing." Evan shook his head, angry at the idea. "You're not worth nothing." Her eyes softened. "Then why did you help me?" He met her gaze, voice steady. "Because someone had to. Because you were alone. Because no one deserves to be hunted." A long silence settled between them. Then another alarm beeped. Not from the enemy, from deeper inside the cruiser. Evan frowned. "That's strange." Rona stiffened. "What is it?" He tapped the display. A warning flashed. "Anomaly detected. Ship tracker active." Teterana's breath caught. She whispered, "They didn't lose us." Evan looked at her. "They put a tracker on you." Warning light flashed again and again, bright red, like a heartbeat in panic. Tracker detected. Evan stared at the screen, trying to understand how it was even possible. Lerana's hands shook as she touched the side of her cloak. Her breathing grew sharp and fast. "They placed it on me," she whispered. "Maybe when they first captured me. Or when I escaped." Evan moved closer. "Where exactly is it?" She swallowed hard. "On my skin." The words hit him like a punch. It wasn't a device she could simply remove. It was inside her hunder, her skin. Evan leaned forward. "Then we get it out." Lerona stepped back, terrified. No, you don't understand. It is not a normal tracker. It is part of a royal mark. Removing it requires special tools, or it kills the host." Evan stared at her. "It was made to kill you." She nodded. "Yes. If I run too far, it burns my bloodstream. If anyone tries to remove it, it destroys my heart." Evan clenched his jaw. "That's not a tracker. That's a weapon." She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. They never wanted me alive." Before Evan could speak, a shadow passed over the cliff. Then another. The sky darkened even though the sun hadn't set. A deep rumble echoed like thunder. Evan looked up. A massive alien gunship appeared above them, much larger than the one he escaped earlier. Its wings spread out wide, blocking the light. Engines glowed in a deadly purple. The symbol on its side was sharp and cold. Royal Enforcement. Lirona froze. "That's the High Council's ship." Evan grabbed her arm. "Get inside the cruiser." "No," she whispered. "Evan, they will kill you. They do not allow humans to interfere." He pulled her anyway, ignoring her fear. "I've already interfered." A beam of bright white light shot down from the gunship, illuminating the cliff. The ground vibrated under their feet. Evan pushed Liana into the cruiser and jumped in after her, before he could close the door. A voice thundered across the sky, amplified by a loudspeaker. "Return the fugitive royal child at once. Human, step away. This matter does not concern your kind." Lirona flinched as if the voice itself hurt her. "Evan, they know you helped me. They will mark you as an enemy." Evan didn't look away from the controls. "Good. Then we have something in common." The cruiser engines roared weakly. They were still repairing themselves from the chase. The gunship above them charged a massive energy cannon. Lirona grabbed Evan's hand. "They will destroy us." Evan squeezed her hand back. "Not if I move first." He pushed the throttle forward. The cruiser lurched upward violently, almost falling back down. The engine sputtered, then caught fire with a sudden burst of power. The small ship shot sideways off the cliff just as the alien gunship fired. A gigantic plasma beam tore through the cliffside, sending rocks and dust flying through the air. Evan's cruiser dipped and spun, barely surviving the shockwave. Lirona screamed as the world tilted. Evan pulled the controls with all his strength, forcing the small ship to rise above the smoke. "They're locking onto us again." Lirona shouted, "I see it." Evan yelled over the alarms. The gunship followed with terrifying speed. Bright lasers shot past them, burning streaks across the sky. Evan dove into a cloud layer, then pulled sharply upward. The cruiser rattled from the sudden pressure. Lirona clutched the seat, eyes wide with terror. "The shield can't handle more hits." Evan gritted his teeth. "Then we won't get hit." He pulled the small cruiser into a spiral maneuver, dropping it into a steep curve that almost tore the wings off. The gunship overshot them for a moment. Evan took the chance. He pushed every button he knew, forcing the damaged engines to give him one final boost. The cruiser shot upward like a silver bullet. But then the tracker inside Lirona activated. A burning pain exploded through her shoulder. She screamed and collapsed forward. Bright blue marks under her skin glowed fiercely, pulsing like fire. "Lirona?" Evan grabbed her, panic in his voice. "What's happening?" "It's calling them," she gasped. "If I get weaker, the signal gets stronger." Evan looked at the radar. More ships were approaching. 3, then 5, then 7. "You're not going back to them," Evan said, voice shaking with anger. "Not alive. And I won't let them kill you." Lirona's eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from something deeper. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered, before Evan could answer. The cockpit shook again. They were surrounded. Alien soldiers prepared to board. Evan stood up slowly, placing himself between Lirona and the door. Lirona reached for his arm, voice trembling. "Evan, please. They will kill you." He didn't turn around. "Then they'd better bring enough soldiers," he said quietly. The cruiser door began to unlock from the outside, and Lirona realized this human wasn't just protecting her life. He was ready to fight a whole army for her. The cruiser door shook again as soldiers forced it open from the outside. Metal cracked. Sparks sprayed into the cockpit. Lirona held her breath as footsteps clanged across the hall. Heavy boots, armored, trained. They were not simple guards. They were royal execution. Troops the kind sent only for one purpose: to remove a royal threat, to erase the bloodline. To kill her, Evan stepped in front of Lirona, positioning himself between her and the door like a wall made of stubborn courage instead of steel. His ribs ached with every breath, but he didn't step back. He didn't even blink. The door burst open. 3 alien soldiers stormed in, armor glowing with blue light. Their helmets reflected the cockpit lights like cold mirrors. Each carried a long spear-like weapon charged with energy. If they fired inside the cruiser, the ship would explode instantly. One soldier pointed his weapon at Evan. "Human," he growled in a low, metallic voice. "Move away from the fugitive." Evan stared at him without fear. "She's not a fugitive. She carries royal blood," the soldier replied. "Her existence breaks the Council's law." "Hand her over." "No," Evan said calmly. The soldiers hesitated. No human had said no like that. Not with such silence. Not with such certainty. Lirona grabbed Evan's arm from behind, her hand trembling. "Evan, please. Don't do this. They will kill you first." He didn't look back. "I know. Then why stand there?" she whispered. He finally glanced over his shoulder at hers for a second. "Because you deserve someone to stand there." Lirona felt her heart twist. No one in her life had ever said something like that to her. Not her guards. Not her advisors. Not even her mother. She had always been a hidden child, a dangerous symbol. A threat to the Council. Evan treated her like a person. The lead soldier stepped closer. "Human, this is your final warning. We do not wish to harm you. Step aside. You will have to go through me," Evan said. The soldiers lifted their weapons. The cockpit brightened. Then one of them noticed something and froze. "The tracker," he said. "It is fully activated." Blue light pulsed under Lirona's skin and climbed toward her chest like glowing fire. She gripped her shoulder and screamed. Evan rushed to hold her before she collapsed. "What's happening?" he shouted. The soldier spoke coldly. "Her blood is rejecting the signal. Soon the tracker will overheat and destroy her heart. She cannot travel far from the Council's territory. She is dying." Evan glared at the soldiers. "Then help her." "She cannot be helped," the soldier replied. "She must be terminated." Evan stepped in front of Lirona again. "You're not touching her." The soldiers raised their weapons. Again the cockpit shook, but this time it wasn't from an attack, it was from another ship landing, a much larger one. The soldiers looked at each other silently. Then the lead one lowered his weapon. "The High Commander has arrived." Evan frowned. "Who is that?" Before the soldiers could answer, a shadow blocked the cockpit entrance. A tall figure stepped inside. Unlike the soldiers, he wore no helmet. His face was stern, sharp, lined with authority. His armor was marked with a royal cresta crown made of 3 stars. Lirona gasped. "Commander Ryzek." The High Commander looked at her with unreadable eyes. "You should not be alive." Evan moved closer, ready to fight again. She didn't ask to be hunted. Commander Ryzek studied Evan with cold interest. "And you? Human soldier. Why do you protect her?" Evan's voice didn't shake. "Because she's innocent." "Innocent." The commander raised an eyebrow. "Her birth threatens our political structure. Her life could start a war." Evan stepped forward. "So you kill her to protect your power. That's not justice." The commander's eyes narrowed. The soldiers tensed, expecting him to strike Evan down instantly. But instead, A commander walked toward Evan until they stood almost chest to chest. "You fear nothing," Ryzek said quietly. Why? Evan met his gaze. "Because someone needs me. And humans don't abandon people when they need help." The commander turned to look at Lirona. Her silver skin glowed with the burning marks. Her breathing was sharp and weak. She was close to collapsing. Commander Ryzek spoke again. "Lirona, daughter of Queen Halestra, is this human important to you?" Lirona's eyes widened with tears. She forced herself to speak, though every word hurt. "Yes. He saved me. Twice. And he did it without asking who I was." Ryzek stared at her a long moment. Then, without warning, he removed the energy cell from his soldiers' weapons. The soldiers gasped. "Commander." "Silence," he ordered. He looked at Evan. "Your courage shames many of my own kind." He stepped toward Lirona and placed 2 fingers over the glowing mark on her shoulder. She flinched. "Hold still," he said. A bright flash filled the cockpit. The burning glow under her skin dimmed. The tracker deactivated. Lirona collapsed forward, breathing deeply, tears falling silently. Evan caught her before she slipped off the seat. The commander stepped back. "She is free from the tracker now," he said. "But her survival will depend on what she chooses next." Evan looked up. "And what do you choose?" Commander Ryzek stared at both of them. "I choose to see what a human's loyalty can change." For a long moment, the cockpit stayed silent. Only Lirona's weak breathing filled the air. The glowing marks on her skin faded slowly, like dying embers. Evan held her carefully, afraid she might slip back into pain at any second. Commander Ryzek stood still, watching them with unreadable eyes. Lirona finally opened her eyes. She looked exhausted, but alive. "Evan," she whispered. He smiled softly, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "You're safe now." She stared at him, eyes full of things she couldn't put into words. Gratitude, relief, and something deeper. Something she had never felt for anyone. Commander Ryzek cleared his throat. "Lirona, daughter of the Queen," he said firmly, "you survived something many would not. The Council believed you were a threat. Now I must decide whether to deliver you to them or protect you." Lirona tensed, fear returning. Evan's grip tightened around her hand. Ryzek looked at Evan. This human risked everything. He used stolen technology, violated border rules, and fought our royal hunters, all to protect you. His voice lowered. "Why?" Evan stood up straight, still keeping a hand on Lirona's shoulder. "Because she deserved to live. Because she did nothing wrong. Because she's not a threat to anyone." The commander studied him closely. "Humans are known for courage, but yours is unusual." Evan shrugged. "Maybe someone has to start doing the right thing." Lirona felt tears gather in her eyes again. She had never heard someone speak for her like that. Not even her own people. The commander finally sighed, long and heavy. "Very well." He turned to his soldiers. "Stand down." Weapons lowered instantly. Ryzek continued, "Lirona will return to her mother, alive and unharmed." The soldiers stiffened in shock. "Commander," one protested. "The Council has made enough mistakes," Ryzek snapped. "I will take responsibility." He looked back at Lirona. "Your mother believed you dead. That pain alone nearly broke her. I will not add to her suffering." Lirona covered her mouth with a trembling hand. You knew my mother?" "I served under her for decades," Ryzek said. "She was fair, brave, she loved her people, and she loved you." Lirona's tears finally fell. Evan stepped closer to the commander. "So what happens now?" Ryzek gave him a long look, one of respect. "Now she comes home. You saved a royal heir. that makes you an ally of our bloodline. Evan blinked. I wasn't trying to be anything. I just wanted her safe. Ryzek nodded. And that is why you deserve respect. He pressed a button on his wrist guard. A deep hum filled the air as his massive ship lowered a boarding ramp. Soft blue lights illuminated the path. Lirona looked at it with a heavy heart. Evan, what about you? He smiled sadly. This is your world. Your people. They need you. Her voice shook. But I don't want to leave you. Evan stopped breathing for a moment. Ryzek raised an eyebrow. You may speak freely, Lirona. She stepped closer to Evan. Her hand gently touched his chest. Right over the bruised ribs he had earned saving her. You changed everything, she whispered. You made me feel alive for the first time. You showed me humans are not cold, not cruel, not what we were taught. You saw me as more than a mark, more than a target. Evan swallowed hard. And you're more than you think, Lirona. You're brave, strong. You survive things no one should survive. Her eyes shimmered. Will we meet again? Evan looked into those silver eyes and felt something twist inside him. A connection he couldn't explain. A bond created through blood, fear, and courage. Yes, he said softly. I'll find you. Her breath caught. Commander Ryzek stepped forward. Your place is with your people now. But know this, human, your name will not be forgotten. Lirona turned to the ramp. But before stepping onto it, she spun around and rushed back to Evan. She threw her arms around him, surprising the soldiers, surprising even herself. Evan held her tight. For a moment. The whole universe went quiet. Lirona whispered against his chest, Thank you for saving me when no one else would. He whispered back. Thank you for trusting me. She pulled away slowly, her fingers sliding from his hand until only their fingertips touched. And even those slipped apart. Ryzek guided her up the ramp. She looked back one last time. Evan stood in the fading dust, watching her with a soft, sad smile. The ship's engines glowed. The ramp closed. Lights brightened. Then, with a deep hum, the giant vessel lifted into the sky. Evan shielded his eyes as it rose higher and higher, until it was only a silver dot, and then? Gone silence returned to the cliff. Evan stood alone next to his damaged cruiser, the wind brushing dust against his boots. He whispered to the empty sky, I'll see you again. Lirona, he didn't know it yet. But somewhere far above the clouds, in a royal chamber filled with stars, Lirona whispered the same words.